Good morning, Grenada. You're locked in to Good Morning Grenada with Missy, Chrissy, Gary, Mr. Smooth. We are live on K105.5 FM as well as Hot FM. And of course, good morning to all of you watching us on GBN TV, on Facebook, as well as YouTube. It's so good to be with you again for another week. Today is Monday, the 20th of June, 2022. I hope you're ready for this entire week. It's going to be a very interesting week in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I know elections begin today. We have the police officers going out to vote, and we do have the general elections on Thursday, the 23rd of June, 2022, right here in the Spice Country. So good morning to everyone. I know we're getting ready for a good one, and I have to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers of the nation. I really hope you enjoyed your day yesterday. And we're going to get into our updates for the COVID-19 virus from the Ministry of Health. It's dated June 13th, 27 new confirmed cases. We have 2 hospitalizations, 2 severely ill, and 0 new deaths as of the 13th of June. 19 new recoveries, a test positivity rate of 11.7%, and active cases stood at 179 as of the 13th of June. And that was your update. Compliments the Ministry of Health and Social Security. Now for your word of the day, because you know we're all about expanding your vocabulary right here on Good Morning Grenada. The word of the day is garrulous. Garrulous. Now, it's spelled Garrulous. Garrulous. Now, garrulous can mean chatty or excessively talkative when describing a person or even a bird that calls or sings rapidly and constantly. Or it can mean wordy when referring to a piece of language itself, such as a letter or a speech. So I'm sure you can find a way to use garrulous in your vocabulary from here on. I'll give you a sentence as an example. Annie's garrulous and outgoing nature is a stark contrast to her brother's more retiring demeanor. In another sentence, his garrulous rapid-fire presentation hyping the new feature was exciting at first, but soon became repetitive and tiresome. And I think in this season of speeches constantly, you could find a way to describe someone with garrulous. That's your word of the day right here on Good Morning Grenada. It is 25 minutes onto the hour of 7 o'clock in the morning time, and we are moving along. I hope you're starting your day really good right here with us. And coming up within the show, we do have the morning edition of news for you, keeping you updated with what's happening locally, regionally, as well as internationally. We also have some great conversation. We're going to be diving into a little history lesson because yesterday was the 19th of June, which commemorated the anniversary of a bomb blast that happened in Grenada. But it also is the anniversary of a few other things in history for us right here in Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique. So we have a special guest, Angus Martin, a historian, joining us at 7:15. So you want to stay tuned for that one, all right? Let's move into the thought for the day. The thought for today is, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Let's let that soak in for a little while there. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And that's coming out from Bruce Lee. Yeah. And you see that action shot with him kicking. Listen, if you've practiced something 10,000 times, you are officially an expert at it. You know, they say sometimes if you've done something for 10,000 hours, you have reached expert level on it. So practice that thing. Yeah, man. That was your thought for today. Practice really makes perfect. The more time and energy you devote to a particular activity, the better you get at it. Find something that gives you a sense of purpose and keep working at it. And you can get feedback along the way. You can work on your shortcomings until you become a master. The truth is that there is no substitute for hard work. Yes, indeed. Now, did you know that Albert Einstein's brain was stolen when he died? What? I had no idea. That's a good one. Well, I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's a good did you know? I had no idea. So apparently, when the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Albert Einstein passed away on April 18th, 1955, he left behind specific instructions when it came to the disposal of his body. Now, according to National Geographic investigation, Einstein didn't want his corpse to be worshipped or his brain to be studied. So he instructed those who were responsible for his remains to cremate them and scatter the ashes secretly in order to discourage idolaters. Gary, you there? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Missy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Listen, what's going on? Somebody stole Einstein's brain?
Well, yeah, people do crazy things, and I was just as shocked as you were to have learned that this morning. So.
Yeah. So apparently when Thomas Harvey, the pathologist on call, when Albert Einstein died at New Jersey's Princeton Hospital, they didn't quite follow the instructions. Instead, he stole his brain. From there, things got even weirder. When Albert's family found out, his son apparently didn't object to the theft, and Harvey was able to keep the brain in 2 jars in his basement before moving it to a cider box stashed under a beer cooler. What?
Yeah.
That is insane. Insane in the membrane.
Yeah, what can you do with Einstein brain, right? I mean, there might be some connection there that could probably solve why Einstein was above a lot of people at that time, intellectually and creatively,
Definitely. But also I think being able to study a brain like that one must be quite an adventure for a scientist, even to this day. I think that's because the truth is the brain, according to the chemical balances in the brain or which aspects of the brain may be bigger than others, it really gives a lot about someone. It's like reading a map. Yeah.
And still is considered to be one of the greatest minds in history. So.
Indeed, I'd love to study his brain.
Albert Einstein, yes, indeed. Where we at right about now?
They're ready for the riddle, man.
Riddle, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get the opportunity to say Happy Father's Day belated to all the fathers, and hope you guys had a really wonderful time yesterday. Hope you were pampered and treated as you deserve to be treated. Mothers get all the love, but there is a day set aside for fathers, and I trust that yesterday was worth all the shebang. You know what I'm saying? So happy belated Father's Day to all fathers out there. And let's jump inside of the riddle for this morning. All right, you guys ready for it? All right, this morning's riddle comes to you all courtesy of our friends at the Grill Master located on Wall Street, Grenada. This morning's winner, y'all make sure you stand by and stay close, because this morning's winner can win a dinner for 2. This morning's winner gets a dinner for 2 at, of course, the Grill Master, where you can, of course, enjoy breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Here's the riddle. What has many keys but cannot open a single lock? What has many keys but can't open a single lock? Who can figure that out? Let us know.
Yeah, man. The number to call is 435-2041. You can call and you could be the lucky winner of a dinner for 2. I like it. Yeah, man. And we could get into, you could have an opportunity. Oh, the phone's ringing already. All right, let's take this one. Good morning. You're live on Good Morning Grenada. Hello.
My name is Casey and the answer is piano.
Sorry, can you say your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, my name is Casey. I live in Brandon, St. George, and my name is
Casey, all right. Casey, how old are you?
I am 10.
5? 10. Okay, great. And what school do you attend?
St. Mary's Junior School.
St. Mary's Junior School. All right, Casey. So, do you have the answer for us this morning?
Yes.
What's the answer?
Piano.
A piano. Can you explain why you came up with that answer?
Because a piano has many keys, but cannot unlock its door.
I didn't hear the last part.
A piano has many keys, but it cannot unlock the door.
That's true, because keys is related to music, right? Yes, no, maybe? Maybe. All right, that is absolutely the answer. So you have just won yourself a dinner for 2 at the Grill Master. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who you think you're going to take to dinner with you?
My brother.
Your brother? Okay, perfect. Can we get your surname as well? Hostin. All right. Thank you so much, Casey Hostin. Out of Grandad's, you are the winner this morning. Thanks so much for taking part in our riddle for the day. Alrighty, so there you have your winner. That was nice and quick this morning, and we are getting ready to head into the morning edition of news as well, right here on Good Morning Grenada, and we have some conversations to head into on the other side of the hour, right, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. On yesterday, well, June 19th, we marked this day as a particularly important day in history, right? And we're gonna dive into some history a bit later on this morning, so you guys stick around for that.
All right, we'll be right back. Morning edition of the news up next.
This is a message from the Parliamentary Elections Office on the voter identification card. Voters are reminded that they are expected to present their voter identification card on Election Day. Those who have not replaced their card can present their expired ID with the expiry date, January 31st, 2020. A registered voter who is unable to produce his or her voter identification card shall be given a ballot paper once he or she satisfies the presiding officer that he or she has not been issued with an identification card, or that he or she has been issued with an identification card which is lost or destroyed. Registered voters who have not collected their cards are asked to do so in person before Election Day to avoid delay on polling day. A message from the Parliamentary Elections Office.
Officials of the Parliamentary Elections Office are calling on individuals making claims and objections regarding the voters' registration list to ensure they have enough evidence before doing so. Rena Perez-Thomas reports.
Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Elvis Moraine, says in investigating claims and objections made to the office, they have found that in several instances there were not enough facts to back the claims. Moraine outlined some of the key areas they received the claims and objections on.
Now, we receive on the 7th, from one person, we receive 45, and that was inclusive of 27 of the objections we were working on before, right? So in essence, it's about 18. We received 15 from another, and I'm saying agency because I'm not sure if it didn't say, okay, you might know the person, but not the political party. And we noticed that there are 3 persons who are common to both of that, right? And then we received another 25. And there we had mostly deaths. Well, as I said, presumed to be dead, because we have since proven that some of the list of deaths are not always accurate, right? So we had that, and we had about 6 persons relative to, in terms of residency issue.
The Supervisor of Elections explains that in many instances the claims had no grounds for objections and even created uncertain moments for some individuals.
In the South, St. George's South, someone brought a claim for about 61, dead person. And it was an interesting experience because our first, and I want to say to the public, our first line, we look at it, and because it's debt, you can't write to anybody. But if sometime, so what we do, we then start to do our own search. And interesting in that scenario last week, when we were trying just call to assert, because we're calling now, which even though you call and you say, okay, the person died, we can't remove them, so we need information. So you say, okay, well, do you have a death certificate? Because that would authenticate that the person died. And, it was interesting last week that some people were didn't take it kindly. Because in some cases that we call, was the person on the other line, you say to them that
individuals making claims in the future are advised to ensure that there are sufficient facts to back up their claims.
So we have debts. Debts basically is our biggest category. We have residency as another one. We have migration in terms of someone claiming that someone has been out for more than the prescribed period. We also have an interesting one. Cannot be identified by that name and occupation. All right, interesting. We have that. And of course, the last one we have relative to people's on the police voters list.
Maureen was speaking at Government's weekly post-cabinet briefing. For GBN News, I'm Rena Pett-Thomas reporting.
Officials of the Parliamentary Elections Office have outlined the protocols and processes required for all voters on June 20th and 23rd. Key among them are security measures to ensure that the election process is free and fair. Here's another report from Rena Pett-Thomas.
As a means of guiding voters and ensuring that there is transparency on Election Day on June 28th and 23rd, officials from the Parliamentary Elections Office illustrated the process of how one votes. Before any vote is cast, every ballot box will be opened to show the presiding officers that it is empty and later locked until the end of the voting day. System Administrator at the Parliamentary Elections Office, Mr. Michael Millett, explains that there will be no indication on the ballot paper that would identify the voters.
When the presiding officer collects this ballot, he has to tear off that portion. So at the end, we are left with two pieces. This is the upper portion of the ballot that is torn off with the number on it. So we have this number here. This portion is torn off with the presiding officer's initial. This is kept by the presiding officer. And all that goes into the box is this. There is no marking on this to be able to identify anyone.
Millett also explained the different options of voting and how a voter can make their mark.
For whom you decide to cast your vote, you make your mark in that space here. So if you're voting for the triangle, you make your mark here. Some persons, again, might be looking for a box. We have promotion that is being done. Some of the candidates, when they do their flyers and so, they put a box and put an X inside the box. The law says you make a mark. It can be an X, it can be a tick, whatever, but preferably an X. But there is no box to look at to put your mark inside. So if you're voting for the triangle, you put your mark anywhere in that area. You're voting for this candidate, you put your mark in that area likewise.
The system administrator says there are security measures put in place to ensure that people can identify an up-to-date voters list and to ensure that each ballot is counted correctly.
The system for transmitting doesn't do anything to the votes. So persons might believe, oh, well, they're showing the results online in an electronic computerized system, they can do what they want. The results that are displayed are the actual results that came from the polling station. We're just not using the radio for that. And in real time, so the presiding officer finishes, the polls close at 5, there was no one else in the line, we finish count at 5:40. By 5:41, the results for that polling station gets online in real time. We at the electoral office, you in the public, everyone gets the results at the same time.
Millett spoke about how the results will be transmitted on elections day.
We cast our votes, we count, we know the results there and then. And this ends the poll. And once this is done and all the numbers balance off, the presiding officer therefore then calls the results, because he has to take the ballot box to the returning officer. The police moves along with them. But he calls the results, phone the returning officer and say, here's what, I have concluded my polling station and this is my count. 1 for the Pentagon, 2 for the triangle, 4 for the rectangle. This results then gets put into an electronic system.
Grenadians were also reminded that the results released following the elections are preliminary until the recount of the votes the following day. For GBN News, I'm Rena Pett Thomas reporting.
Moving now to other news, no charges have been leveled against protesting workers at the TMRSO Community College. However, police were forced to intervene after the college decided that the protesters were disturbing their peace.
This is what spurred management at the TAMCC to call police, a move viewed as an act of intimidation by the union representing the workers. It's almost 1 month since employees at the tertiary institution started protest action in an effort to get management to pay their outstanding increments and wage increases owed to them since 2012. The Public Workers Union President Brian Grimes says this morning's action would only add fuel to the fire.
I can say is the management of TAMCC has made a bad situation worse. I received a call this morning, call and text from the hierarchy at the TMRSO Community College regarding the industrial action here. The hierarchy is claiming that the workers are too noisy and for it to be stopped. I explained to them respectfully that this matter is not a spontaneous combustion. It didn't happen overnight. For years, these workers have been owed by the college, and they are taking lawful industrial action. Shortly after that, those exchanges, I got to find out that the police were called, and one of my shop stewards at the TMRSO Community College was actually called out by the police and questioned regarding the action. Now, we view this as high-level intimidation. Right?
The PW president says workers are only acting within their rights according to law. Grimes says they've run out of options geared towards addressing the present situation.
Under the Constitution of Grenada, Section 11, it is clear that people have a right to take part in trade union activities. Under Section 26 of the Labor Relations Act, it is also spelled out. In fact, there are fines and possible imprisonment for infringing on the workers' right to take part in lawful trade union activities. We are calling on the authorities, meaning the central government, to immediately arrest this situation by fixing it and paying the workers their long outstanding monies.
He indicated that to date a meeting is yet to take place with the Labour Commissioner.
As far we have just, our organization, the PW, haven't even gotten to sit with the Labour Commissioner. I just went to the Ministry of Labour asking, even though we placed our submissions a couple of weeks ago, asking for a time to sit to try and iron out this matter. As you can see, as the whole of Grenada can see, the situation is becoming increasingly volatile. The workers are becoming increasingly frustrated because apart from where they are not being paid for over a decade, they have added insult to injury. They have added salt to the wounds by calling the police for them and trying to intimidate them. So the resolve has just grown stronger, and what you see here today will only escalate as time goes along.
GBN contacted the TAMCC management through the principal's office for a response to the claims. However, was told the principal is out of office for the day, and so no response was received. Chrislyn John, GBN News.
30 Seconds of Calm, brought to you by the Environment Division, Government of Grenada and the OACS. Celebrating the environment under the theme Only One Earth and Living in Harmony with Nature for June 2022. 90 seconds of calm brought to you by the Environment Division, Government of Grenada and the OACS, celebrating the environment under the theme Only One Earth and Living in Harmony with Nature for June 2022.
They are the few, the strong, the elite. Grenada, get ready as our sporting gladiators go for gold and glory at the World Championships. Follow every throw, stride and jump from July 15th to the 24th. Capture the action daily on GBN television. It's the World Championships. The dream continues.
James is going to win it.
Ultratech gasoline and diesel, available only at Rubis stations.
Officials from the Parliamentary Elections Office say there is a possibility that some police officers are not registered under the 2022 election police list. However, provisions have been made to facilitate these officers on June 20th. Rena Perry-Thomas has more.
Special procedures have been put in place to accommodate officers who have to vote on Monday, June 20th, but are not registered under the 2022 police voters list. System Administrator at the Parliamentary Elections Office, Mr. Michael Millett, explains.
However, if someone during the last period that went with the claims and objections, we had persons claiming that they were on the wrong list. Police officers were saying, I am not on the police list, I am on that other list. But here's what. These persons are going to be allowed to vote on the police day because addendum would be issued to facilitate those persons. If they did it within the period, then changes were made so that person was able to re-register and get on the correct list. But if the changes, if the re-registration wasn't done, if they didn't have the relevant document at the time, the addendum would take care of this. However, on resumption of registration after the election, these people now have to go back to the office to get re-registered to find themselves on the police list.
Officers who were registered in a particular constituency before becoming a police officer but never re-registered as a member of the RGPF will remain registered in that same constituency and not to be placed on the police voters list until the correct procedure is followed.
So there are a lot of persons who were registered as regular citizens before they became police officers. So now that they are police officers, there is no automatic rollover to the police list. Upon registration, once someone is a police officer, a box is checked to say, here's what, this is a police officer, put that person on the police list. So if you were registered prior to becoming a police officer, now you're a police officer, you can't be sent to the police list. Everything happens upon registration. No changes can be made.
A similar procedure also needs to be done for police officers who retired from the force to get his or her name off the police list.
Again, when we have police officers who retired, once they retire, they are supposed to go back to the constituency office and do that re-registration so that they can find themselves on that regular list. Unfortunately, there are some who didn't do that. So although they retired, they are still on the police list. In a situation like this again, addendum is going to fix that issue temporarily until these people go back to the office and say, I am now re-registering.
For GBN News, I am Rena Perry-Thomas reporting.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
With your new GUT Credit Union Visa debit card, which gives you access to your cash at any Connex or Visa certified ATMs locally and internationally. Make your payments with a tap of your card using the contactless feature and have the freedom to make purchases locally, online, or overseas whenever you travel anywhere Visa is accepted. Experience the enhanced security fraud protection through the Visa chip technology. If you don't have your new GUT Credit Union Visa International debit card, speak to any one of our representatives today to do more. Your new GUT Credit Union Visa International debit card, a smarter way to access your cash. More smart, more secure.
Voting today. Today is going to be a day just like June 23rd. All right, so there's no distinction other than the fact it's only just police officers voting today. So the rules apply governing election day today as well. All right.
Okay, you want to go into that now, just so people can,
We're going to go into that a little bit later.
Okay, great, no problem. What do you have for us then, Gary, Mr. Smooth?
Well, I was hoping that we go take a break and come back and we'll be good.
Okay, great. We can definitely take a musical break right now, and we are going to give you a little vibe in the morning time, a little vibe, and we have so much coming up for you, reminding you that it is 4 minutes after 7 o'clock. I know there's so much happening. You want to make sure you're early, especially this Monday morning as we start in the vibes. But, we're going to take this little musical interlude. All right, so let's get to this one.
Introducing Color by Sissons. 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 Color by Sissons.
This is a message from the Parliamentary Elections Office on the demonstration on marking the ballot. In the sample ballot seen here, 3 candidates are named along with their addresses and occupations. Next to each candidate's name is his or her symbol. A voter is expected to place his or her mark in the open space next to the symbol of his or her chosen candidate. If a voter makes a mistake while marking the ballot paper, he or she can return to the presiding officer and ask for a new ballot paper. Remember, the casting of your ballot is secret. Therefore, no one will know the candidate you voted for. A message from the Parliamentary Elections Office.
Time to chill and the storage chill. Choose a chill and the storage chill. Chill with flavor. Like orange and lemon lime. That's with bitters, yeah. We love the vibe. Refreshing every day. Cool like island breeze. Forget your worries. Come, chill with me. And the storage chill. And the storage chill. And the storage chill. Chill with flavor.
Please be advised that our office has been relocated to Steele's Commercial Complex, Grand Anse, St. George. We at CGI, Consumers Guarantee Insurance Company Limited, look forward to serving you at our new location. Call us on telephone number 440-0217 or visit our website www.insurecgi.com. They are the few, the strong, the elite. Grenada, get ready as our sporting gladiators go for gold and glory at the World Championships. Follow every throw, stride and jump from July 15th to the 24th. Capture the action daily on GBN television. It's the World Championships. The dream continues.
James is going to win it.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
As it should be today. No big fuss, no hype, you know what I mean? So we're just going to go through the motion of the day today, you know. So all the police officers making their way to the polls right about now. Good morning to you. All right. Our day is in the next couple of days. I hope you guys are ready for that. Of course, per the Representation of People's Act, you know, there are rules governing this day. And we have to abide by them, so we ought not to be, and you as well, you know, do anything that might be, perceived as campaigning. So you want to refrain from any such behavior. Okay, so wearing of colors, so forth, near polling station and those things, you know, you don't want to do that. You know, specific colors related to parties, you don't want to definitely do that because there are, you know, consequences for that. Okay, loudspeakers, ensigns, banners, those things are prohibited on polling day, and today is considered a polling day. And again, that is per the People's Act, the representation of the People's Act. So keep that in mind. So no person shall furnish or supply any loudspeaker, bunting, ensign, standard, or set of colors. So we all know what those colors are, or any other flag to any person with intent that it shall be carried, worn, or used on motor cars, trucks, other vehicles, or otherwise in public as political propaganda on polling day. And no person shall, with any such intent, carry, wear, or use on motor cars, trucks, other vehicles, or otherwise in public any such loudspeaker, bunting, ensign, banner, standard, or set of colors, or any other flag on polling day. All right, so that is the rule as it relates to a day like today. So we expect everyone to keep that in mind. And we're going to talk about other rules governing this day as well as we go along. All right? Missy, you there?
I am here. Yes, indeed. Indeed. All right, y'all, we're getting ready for our history lesson this morning. Let's call it that, all right? We want to make sure that all our listeners and viewers right here at Good Morning Grenada know what's going on. You know, there's some specific days in history in Grenada that we really want to get people, educated about. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Dr. Angus Martin.
One day I woke up and they painted a set of pedestrian crossing all along the streets. Nobody told us how to use that thing properly.
I know how.
You're serious?
Every safe, good driver knows about these things. As a driver, you have to be very attentive. You're coming up close to a pedestrian cross, you start slowing down immediately, looking to see if there's any pedestrian on the side getting ready to cross. If there is, you stop on the line that is a certain distance before the crosswalk. Then you would see the pedestrian put their hands out, looking directly at you, indicating that they are going to cross. And only when you have come to a complete stop, that is when they will quickly and safely cross to the other side. And then you continue happily on your journey.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact, wait for pedestrian to cross. Then you happily continue on your journey.
This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
This is a message from the Parliamentary Elections Office on safety on Election Day. As we all go out to cast our ballots on Election Day, let us be aware that COVID-19 is still around. Therefore, we are encouraged to protect ourselves and others by wearing our masks and washing or sanitizing our hands as we enter the polling station. For individuals who have tested positive for COVID-19, please contact your returning officer before Elections Day to make proper arrangements to vote within the rules and reduce the risk of spreading the virus. A message from the Parliamentary Elections Office.
That was definitely a good intro there from that Calypso song, talking about knowing your history as we're getting into this history lesson this morning. Yeah. You're back. We are back with Good Morning Grenada. Missy Chrissy here. Gary, Mr. Smooth, also in the building.
In the building.
All right, y'all. So we have a very special guest. He is a doctoral candidate. So he's not yet a doctor. I know I said doctor just before the break, but he should be a doctor soon, all right? By next year, this time, you're going to be a doctor, all right? So we have Mr. John Angus Martin. He's a historian, archivist, as well as a researcher and the former director of the Sabre Archaeological Center in Sabre. He's also been the director and curator of the Grenada National Museum as well. He's also an author. He wrote several books on Grenada, including A to Z of Grenada Heritage, as well as Island Caribs and French Settlers in Grenada. There's loads of other books that he's co-written, and his focus is really on history of colonialism and slavery in Grenada, but he also explores Caribbean identity as well as the historical relationships in the space of archaeology. All right, so let's welcome to Good Morning Grenada officially Mr. Angus Martin. Good morning to you.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you on Good Morning Grenada. We were looking at the date yesterday and we're saying, listen, today is quite a date in history, and we want to make sure that we're not just mentioning it, but really educating people on how significant June 19th is in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So tell us about this date, the 19th of June.
Right. Well, I guess June 19th happened to have, three significant events that occurred on that day over the years, all dating all the way back to 1796. We had the ending of Feron's rebellion, basically the routing of the rebels by British forces after 15 months of extensive fighting across the island. We have that the rebels, basically their strongholds after June 10th, the French forces under Captain Josie had surrendered at Guave. And then you had a few months before that in March, the British captured Post Royal over Marquis and Pilot Hill. So the rebels basically retreated to their camp in the mountains. And British forces that were brought in by General Abercrombie basically came to Grenada and routed the rebels on June 19th. So that was the end of Feron's rebellion. It took a lot of months to basically get all the people who were in the bushes and things like that, but that basically signified the end of Feron's rebellion. Another event that happened on June 19th is the loss of the city of St. George. It was a schooner owned by a Grenadian but built in Carriacou that was plying the trade between Trinidad and Grenada, and it caught fire, and the 22 people aboard, passengers and crew, basically all of them drowned in that encounter. And it was probably one of the most severe, and we know we had accidents recently with a boat off of Trinidad. So with the amount of boats going back and forth, you've had several of these incidents. And it took a few months before Grenada had to declare the passengers, had to pass an act to declare the passengers dead in order for the families to make several claims and also to move on in terms of were not able to recover bodies and things like that. This happened in 1971, so 51 years ago. So those were two of the significant events, but I think the one that we're probably most in our minds is what took place on June 19th in 1980, and that is a very significant event in terms of what took place during the Revolution. And this was a bomb blast at the Queen's Park. It occurred at the Tuba Uriah Buzz Butler and Alistair Strawn Heroes Day rally that was taking place. And this was a big rally that the PRG had organized. Many of its leaders, the hierarchy of the party and the government were at that rally. There's some debate on the numbers of people who were at the rally. Some say there was 1,000. There was 1,000 apiece in the pavilion. Others, there's one estimate that goes all the way up to 8,000. But basically, the one thing we know for sure is that around 3 p.m., a bomb went off below the platform on which Bishop Cord and several others were sitting. And at the time, it was a speech by Cocodimo Grant that was going on. And that's the one piece of information we know for sure. What happened after, and even all the way through the trial, we really, there's a lot of mixed evidence as to who committed the crime and all of the things that followed.
So has that case ever been solved? Is it, because you said it was very uncertain as to who committed, so what came out of the trial?
Right. I should add first that 3 schoolgirls died in that blast. The bomb did not affect anybody who was sitting on the platform, but below there were 3 schoolgirls died from that. And they were Bernadette Bailey, Laurice Humphrey, and Lorraine Phillip. And we know there was Flying Turkey did a song called Innocent Blood to commemorate these 3 young girls that were killed in the blast. And a school in Happy Hill was named after that has since been renamed. But basically, soon after the bomb blast, the government, the PRG, went after one of their former colleagues who actually was instrumental in the carrying out of the revolution itself.
And I just want to let people, I want to let people know that PRG, when you say PRG, it's the People's Revolutionary Government,
yes.
right? Yes.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Just for those, they may be hearing that for the first time as well, so we want to make sure, every time Mr. Martin says PRG, it's People's Revolutionary Government.
Right. Sorry about that. So basically, within a few hours of the blast happening, the PRG sent the PRA, or the People's Revolutionary Armed Forces, was sent to Mount Airy, St. Paul's, and the intent was to arrest Strawn Phillip. That's what they claimed the intent was. And supposedly he fired at them, but there's conflicting reports. But by the end of it, his body was riddled with 19 bullets, and he was dead at the scene. And he was considered by the PRG at the time. Even Prime Minister Bishop had announced that he was responsible for this counter-revolutionary group that was operating in Grenada. And supposedly, they said traces of the bomb and ammunition and guns and stuff were found at his home. That was, of course, denied by the people close to him. Several other people were arrested within the next few days, included the Bulldad brothers, three of them, Lane Phillip, Fitzlyn Joseph, and Grace Augustine. A trial ensued from 1982, May of 1982 to 1st of November 1982, and Grace Augustine, Lane Phillip, Kenneth Bulldad, and Russell Bulldad were all convicted and given sentences of 10 and 15 years. The problem, though many people, though the trial concluded, many people did not believe that these guys were guilty, and that would come out later on when the revolution was overturned back in 1983. They were actually all pardoned on the advice of by Governor General Paul Schoon at the time, on the advice of the Mercy and Advisory Committee. So basically, we really don't have any conclusive evidence, as to who committed this crime, and we've never followed up.
These individuals you just mentioned, they're still alive, right?
Some of them are.
Who were pardoned? Those who were pardoned.
The Bulldad brothers are still alive. I'm not sure of the others, because I know he has actually come out and spoken about, things that happened during the revolution.
Very interesting. And you mentioned that 3 people died, but I know that loads of other people were also severely injured during the bomb blast as well.
Yes, I think between 10 and 100 people were injured, some severely. I know there was one 10-year-old, I think Jackie at the time, a young girl. She was taken to Cuba and received treatment because of her injuries.
Right. That is so. It's so interesting too that this was only back in 1980, but there's so much mixed evidence. Well, there's lack of evidence, and also, a lot of the people there at the time are still alive, but for some reason, there's just not a lot of information and facts surrounding something that happened so recently. Why is it that we find that's happened a lot during the revolutionary period in Grenada?
Right. I think that, and as you said, during the revolutionary period, there's lots of unresolved issues. I think we've never dealt really with looking at in detail. We did have a Truth and Reconciliation committee that looked at things, but I don't think it was as detailed as we would have liked. I think there was really not a resolution. There is a lot of conflicting data of things that happened during the revolution. I think because there was attempts by the government maybe to cover up things and other activities that went down. There was a lot of infighting between groups in Grenada, and many of them were people who were part of the revolution initially. We know that lots of people that were in the revolution ended up in jail. We're talking about primary people within the government. So there was a lot of infighting and very draconian prison policies that basically threw a lot of people in jail even without trial. So you do have a lot of emotions as well as part of all of this. And I think for a lot of things, we just don't deal with them. We just brush them aside and don't take the time to really explore our history and why things happened and what happened. And, and we just consider it history now. Which I think is sad because we don't have any resolution for the families of the people. So.
And how do we prevent that in the future? So as a historian and also as media, as maybe even just the general public, how can we document everything that's happening now going forward to ensure that generations to come know exactly what's happened in our history from our point of view and not necessarily from someone outside?
Sure. I think we do definitely need more people to write about history, to study history. That's one of the major things that I do is the recording of history and coming up with different perspectives as well. Because sometimes, as you say, we have all these multiple perspectives, but we need to have some kind of factual basis to be able to judge those perspectives. We need to teach that history in school as well, and have people engage with that history. We need a national archives. We do not have a national archives in Grenada. There's no place that you can go and say, hey, I want to see all the documents of that trial that took place. What was the evidence that was collected? There is no place. All of the documents that the U.S. took out from Grenada, the archival stuff they took it to America. They actually microfiched it at the National Archives in the U.S. We clamored for the documents to come back to Grenada, and when it came back, we dumped it in a room up on the fort where it got wet with water, rainwater, and there was termite damage. I don't know what's the status of it right now, but the last time I saw of it, it was pretty in bad condition. Luckily, the U.S. government did microfiche it, so we still have some access to that data. But again, we don't have records of all of our history are not accessible to Grenadians in Grenada, especially of the revolution or any other period. If you want to study Grenadian history, you have to travel, to the UK or to France. And I think that is a sad state when we don't have control over the records of our history.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so true.
Absolutely. Well said. And talk to us about your book, A to Z, Grenada. I know that you're working on a upcoming edition, a revision of it. So tell us about how you have documented history in that book and where we can get that book as well.
Right. So the A to Z of Grenada history was published back in 2007. It's been out of print for a while, but I describe it as a book I wish I had when I was growing up in Grenada. So it's a compilation, basically. It's like an encyclopedia of Grenada. It's looking at the people, culture, places, folklore, politics, a little of everything, basically. And it's set up as in a dictionary and have lots of references. So in the case that if somebody wants to find out more about something specific, for even something like as a masquerade, or talking about Grenada's patois, where it came from, why did it disappear, that kind of thing. So it takes a look at every aspect of Grenada's history, basically the entire cultural landscape. Archaeologically as well, we go back and try to find out about the Amerindians. And I've been working since I published the first edition. I've been working on a new edition. And finally, we actually just finalized the draft, and we're reviewing copies, proofs right at this moment. So we hope that within the next 2 months, copies will be available, at least on Amazon. We'll send copies down to Grenada, of course, so that book can become available. One of the things I would love to see is that a book like this that really captures so much in one space be approved for use in schools.
Yeah, that was my very same thought.
Yeah, I remember the first edition, I actually met with at least one Minister of Education, and they're like, yeah, sure, it would happen. It never did, of course. But I really would think that it's something we would want in the school system. One of the things I'm actually looking at doing is creating an app of the book, which would allow for much more information to be placed in access to students. So that is something that I'm willing to explore, and actually going to try to work with several Grenadians on that. If it's something that I think that people would be interested in.
Excellent. I think that is right. It is the type of book you need in your school library. Definitely. It's the book you need in every class, in your school bag. You know, I remember we had George Brazan's book in our school. We had the two versions, the green one and the red one, and it always came in handy when we had to work on some sort of project. And I think there's something to be said about having a history book written by a Grenadian. You know, there's something to be said about that. Yeah, and you know, as a child growing up, you think, okay, this is a possibility for me as well, you know? So thank you so much.
Let me ask a question quickly. What do you think is the hindrance? What has been that challenge present in getting Grenada's history into the curriculum in schools? Right. And we're not just talking about secondary schools, primary schools. Right. You know, what has been that, in your opinion, the biggest challenge? Why this hasn't started as yet?
Right. I think we did have quite a bit of history. I think that's something that's actually happening not just in Grenada, but across the region. I think we've always, the curriculum, basically, the emphasis has been on Caribbean history when you look at CXC. So there's always, so we learn about the Maroons in Jamaica, but we never learn about the Maroons in Grenada. So I think there's been that emphasis on a Caribbean-wide curriculum. I think for definitely in the primary school system, we can begin to emphasize more Grenadian history and more extensive, not just around independence when we want to talk about, you know, the colors of the flag, what they mean and things like that. I think we need to begin exploring, you know, and there are places that are doing it. I know one of the projects we're working on, which I'll be in Grenada for a few months to work on, is the UNESCO-funded Pride of Our Heritage. That's the Grenada National Trust project, where we're actually inventorying the intangible cultural heritage across the island, and the intent is to create curriculum for the school system so that we can teach some of these cultural aspects that we don't want to just disappear from Grenada. So I think that should be complemented by teaching Grenadian history. We should know more about Fedon's Rebellion. We should know more about 1951's Kai Red. You know, all of these events, you know, in the island's history, and Grenadians should be conversant in that. You know, I think there's so much talk now, you know, about reparations and things like that. You know, what does it mean? How do we engage with that? You know, and I think I am part of the reparations committee, and one of the things we're looking at is trying to educate, you know, do lectures in schools and things like that to talk about slavery and reparations and what those things mean for Grenadians and Caribbean and the wider world.
But what important is it? What's the importance of it in teaching kids these things? I think I know the answer to that question, but for the benefit of the viewers and listeners, what would it do for our people going forward?
Right. You know, it's kind of cliche to say, in order to know who we are, we have to know where we come from. Yeah, that's repeated, you know, quite often in various places. And I think it is important to know your history and to know where you come from, and in order to be able to form our own identity about who we are and how we see ourselves in this world. You know, I'm actually working on my dissertation in order to get that PhD finally, and my dissertation topic is called We Neighbor String Berry Here, Landscape History, Representation and Identity in Grenada. So I am exploring the last 500 years of Grenada's history and trying to look at the groups of people who have been on Grenada and have impacted the landscape, the cultural landscape today, and how that impacts my identity and every other Grenadian. You know, so that for me, learning about the history, and I think I really started learning Grenada's history because I wanted to find out more about myself. and how I fit into this larger picture. So I think identity is really important for personal identity as well as national identity for us to know history.
Indeed, national identity is so important. And even when you compare the islands of the nations of the Caribbean, you tend to see some countries standing out a little bit more with their identity versus others. And I think there's a reason behind that as well, right?
Sure. I think we do see other islands. And, when you look at the bigger islands especially, they have had the University of the West Indies maybe in their countries. So they've had lots more research on their history. That's why there seem to be sometimes a greater emphasis in our school systems when we talk about the different islands. I say sometimes we know more about other islands than we know about our own island. And I think we should know about the other islands because they are part of the larger Caribbean and they impact, our history and culture as well. But I think we really need to know the specifics of our island. I would find it interesting to ask students, Grenadian students, about, some of the ruins that are around. They go to an old plantation and they see a water wheel or something like that, or guess functioning at River Antoine. What is that about? Where did it come from? What has it been doing? That kind of thing. We talk about slave pens and their issue over the fact that those may not be slave pens, but we call them that. So we need to explore that kind of history. As to, we're normally naming things and back and forth. And if we don't know the history, we tend to make things up.
True.
And that's
so
a
true.
liability as well.
Yeah, and especially for our tour guides, we need to make sure that we're telling people the right thing, the right story.
Not just making up things as we go, right?
About that. Supposedly, the name Sendall Tunnel came about because they send all the slaves through.
Wow.
Somebody overheard a guide telling visitors that.
No way.
Nah, that's a
But Sendall was a governor, no?
Yes, he was actually a governor he started the project to create Sendall Tunnel, which is one of the things the reparations committee is also exploring, the names of places. Should we change the names of some of these places to reflect, our current landscape? So that's something that the reparations committee is exploring.
Indeed. I would love to dive into a conversation with you another time on reparations now that you're telling us that you're part of the committee, because we did air something on that aired from the BBC a few weeks ago, and I think there's conversations to be had about that in general. So thank you so much, though, John Angus Martin, for joining us today and giving us this history lesson on the significance of June 19th. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Grenada.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. Yeah. So we have some dates to keep in mind. 1796 was the Fedon's Rebellion on June 19th. 1971, a schooner was ablaze and loads of people lost their lives. And in 1980, a bomb blast. So June 19th seems to be quite a date in history for us in Grenada. Yeah, man, definitely. Look at you with the word of the day coming through. All right. So we had historian and author John Angus Martin with us. When we come back,
we're going to celebrate his doctorate whenever he gets it.
Of course, we'll have a whole party for you right here. We'll be right back with Good Morning Grenada.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
My granddaughter.
Grenada's Chief Medical Officer has ordered that all confirmed positive COVID-19 individuals, their contacts, and members of their household must remain in quarantine or isolation for 14 days. Anyone who fails to comply with this order will be in breach of the Public Health COVID-19 Regulations 2020 and is guilty of an offense. Upon summary conviction, that person will be liable to a penalty of up to $10,000. A message from the Ministry of Health.
The voice of Talpri in the background there with The Greatest, a collaboration with Expert Production. Such a good one for the morning time. Selector Gary, Mr. Smooth.
Yes, ma'am.
What's going on?
You the selector this morning.
Me? You the select that tune? You the selector?
Lovely song.
It's a lovely one, and it's the first one on the album, and I think it's just so well placed.
Good stuff, man. We are inside. Hey, top of the border to you. Looking at some some of the comments on Facebook. A lot of them I can't read because of the nature of this day. So
Only tomorrow we go get back into the election talk, okay?
Yeah, please, folks. We got to play our part and maintaining law and order.
We try to get locked up.
Yeah, we are doing just that. Someone commented. I'm looking at a comment here. I'm trying to find it. Actually, got lost with all the other comments, but they said that they remember the gunshots. Philip Strawn. They remember the gunshots as it was a nightmarish kind of day, and they remember it so vividly when the gunshots rang out. Of course, as you heard the historian said, he was riddled with 19 bullets.
Yeah, intense. We have a phone. We're going to open up the phone lines. If you recall some of the events of June 19th, we would love to hear from you. So let's go over to the phone lines. Good morning. You're live on Good Morning Grenada.
A person, good morning. I must say that I am thoroughly disappointed with what I've been hearing. I am getting the impression that though we are that badly off in Grenada as far as the history is concerned, when I was in secondary school in the 50s, the Fedor's Rebellion, and written by Father Divas, there's a book called what is that now? Can't remember the name of that book. It was all over the place, and I think that it is the business of the Ministry of Education to go and do research or get people who know something about these histories to give some information and tabulate things down. I don't like that sort of thing. I don't care what you people think. Yes, you have a historian, a Grenadian, would come and do this. There is a book that Maurice Patterson wrote and had all these things. What happened to it? And there are quite other things. I must express that I'm very, very disappointed to hear what I've been hearing this morning. We are not that badly off. I don't care what you people think, but all of these things are recorded there on some bookshelf or something. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of that book. What's it, the name of it now? In that book, we have the history of Grenada written by Father Divas and a lot of other things. The Federal Rebellion was there documented from start to finish. And I don't know. I'm rather confused, and I must express my feelings about this whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. He asked a good question. Where is it? I think he's asking the right question, right? Where is it?
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah, man. I think anyways, let's get another caller here. Good morning.
Hello, morning. How are you all guys doing?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Very interesting. Just about every person mentioned relative to that bomb incident who was charged, who was killed, I know them fairly well. To the extent that I'm telling you, the three ladies that was charged in the incident, and all the guys are good friends of mine, not just the
M&M hardware on this Monday.
Three of them, the three ladies who went to school together. People I sat on school bench with.
And we are experiencing a smooth flow of traffic this morning.
The lady called, one of the ladies, I visited her a few months ago and spoke to her relative to that bomb blast. She denied. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you, yes.
She denied that she was involved in that incident. The one called Jay Budlal, who is a brother of mine by another mother, he told me what happened. Actually, when he was in jail, he used to write me. And the letters used to come, they never hindered it. He said to me that he was tried. He won his case. Actually, one of the lawyers, the lawyer that was involved in his case, he fired him in the process of the case. and he did this case for himself. He turned his own lawyer. And he won his case. He was still put in jail. Jay Baudelaire. That's my very good friend. The way that whole incident happened, just a few weeks ago I visited St. Paul's area where Tom used to live, where Philip used to live. And I took a good look at that house again because the few days after the incident, I visited the house area because that's where I used to be a lot in. And Philip was executed without trial. Well, yes, when he shot at them as they claim, which I understand how that could have been because he was a gunman. There's no question about that. I know him a little bit. But the whole incident, as it happened, has never been clarified in real sense. And that's one of the things that people need to check on. Because the people that have been accused of that incident are still being considered as the people who did the bomb blasting.
Okay.
And that's something we need clarification on. And like I said, one of my brother, you might say, he was tried for that case, he won his case, he was still put in jail for it. You see how this whole thing is? Take care.
Thank you so much, Paula.
History lesson there. Indeed, different perspectives. Either way, we invite your calls nonetheless. All right.
All right. Good morning. You're live.
Yeah.
Morning, Mr. Chrissy.
Morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Morning, Mr. Smooth. I've been looking at the 19th. I've been looking at the date, 19th. June 19th, today, June 19th, 81, the bomb blast. June, going back to 9/11, if you look at it, you take out one, you will get in number 19. So there is something secrecy about the 19th. You understand where I'm coming from, you guys?
Yeah.
There's something secrecy about, because the brother got how much? 19 bullets. So there is something secrecy about this whole thing is bigger than just a small picture. There's a bigger picture to that. And I believe that
didn't look at it that way. All right.
Yeah, I look at it that way. There is some secrecy behind the number 19.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
okay,
Thanks
you
for
guys take
injecting
okay,
that. Injecting that.
I thought it was just interesting that there's so many significant things happening on the same day in the country, and then even in the U.S. they recognize Juneteenth, and it's also today. So good morning, you're live.
Interesting.
Yeah, good morning, Chrissy and Gary. Yeah. Anyway. This day is significant for me because it's the day of my sister's birthday, one of my sister's birthday. In fact, only yesterday I realized that, as I told her, her birthday and the bomb blast is the same. But it's also significant for me because that was the first time I donated blood. It's unfortunate.
You saying that was the first time you donated blood on that day?
I donated blood when there was an appeal for donation of blood. I went to the hospital.
You mean in 1980?
1980.
Okay.
On that day. But it's unfortunate that we haven't really allowed people to understand the significance of the day in the broadest perspective. For instance, we talk about it was Butler, Alistair Strachan Day. Who was Butler? Who was Alistair Strachan? Alistair Strachan was killed years ago when the OAS was in Grenada. He was being pursued by the police for some alleged crime that he had done previously, and he was drowned. They were shooting him outside by the NIS place where the original NIS building was. In fact, was that on the same day Alistair Strachan died, I was also beaten up by the Queen's Park on the Park Bridge, not the Park Bridge, but the Park Stretch, by forces of the Gary regime. I don't talk about that much. So it's very significant that day, and I wish that people would really go into it objectively. Rather than going with all the emotions and all the, the innuendos and so on, it was a day that has sadness for some people, and it's also a day that some people may wish that it didn't happen, but we need to face it as it is. and look at it. Again, it's unfortunate that we had a truth and reconciliation, what they call commission or so, which I thought was a farce, and yet we haven't been able to come to the bottom for lots of things. And so I think we need to open up conversations and let people speak.
Indeed.
Their version of stuff. Our version is not the truth. Our version is our experience of what we experience. There's a bigger truth because when you put all together, that's where you can get the truth. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for calling. Yeah.
So here we are, recording June 19th,
All right, we can take...
it was 1980 or it was, 71, whichever time.
Yeah, we'll take our last caller for the morning. Hello, you're live.
Hello, good morning to you all.
Good morning. We can hear you loud and clear.
Right, that's good. No, I just want to speak a little bit about history. And I grew with my granny, and she told me that Grenadians, they like to talk history, but they don't like it because they don't document.
Hey, can you talk about a little bit more? I could hardly hear you.
Yeah, I said I grew with my granny, right? And she told me that Grenadians, we as Grenadians, we like to talk history, but we don't like it because they don't document a lot of the good stuff or the real things, right? No, I grew with her, but she had her mother, which is my great-grandmother. So I know things from my great-grandmother through she, because it's her mother. So for instance, I can tell you things from the convent right down to True Blue history. I give you one little tip. You may not know that. Look at the stretch in Monroe, these two roads. The straight one with Kentucky in front of Spice Island and Criaba. Don't you know? People don't know. Plane used to land there. They made that as a strip for small plane.
Interesting.
Yes, and there's lots of everything. I can give you the name of every beach in this house. I knew Grenada when there was no hotel there. Can you imagine that the first road to really get to Grenada's beach was on the beach side? If you go right now by that big almond tree on the beach and look 2 feet away from the biggest root, just scratch it. You want to see part of the road there. That road was from the breadfruit tree by Grenada School. You're going down there, and you're going right down to the seawall and swing by the police station. Now, look in Quarantine and Leopard Settlement. There's a lot of history. I can give you a little walk. You go to Quarantine right now, and you go into the point, and look a little on the left. You're going to see a headstone for a tomb there. Go and read on it. And they're creating a park. I told them they're creating a park, but that place have a lot of history. And even from that, they're looking to raise funds. You may be surprised to know that family tracing, you trace to that person, and maybe just because of that park you're doing there, maybe that person family might be so glad to know that their father, where they get the history of his father, and maybe they get all the money to fix Quarantine. Some things we just throwing aside, and it's very good, it's very important, because that person come quite from Canada. And I knew why they was buried there. But we are neglecting everything because we passing, looking at the LL. You see an old man sit down in a house, how old he's sitting in the house, rocking, dude. She old, she don't know nothing. But they was there before you. Go and sit down and find out what is taking place and what is happening.
Thank you so much, caller.
Right.
Yeah, thank you
so much for the,
so wish we had
for the
more time
history
to
lesson.
Continue this, man.
Exactly. It's 2 minutes after 8 o'clock. We have to wrap it up today for Good Morning Grenada, but really we spent a lot of time today recognizing the 19th of June, a significant day in our history here in Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique.
Yeah. But that's a wrap for today, family.
It's a wrap for today. We are going to head over to the BBC. Thanks for rocking with us. We're still here on K105. Gary's here on Hot FM. And, of course, GBN, we have programming on TV as well. Have a great Monday, everyone.